Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
It's easy feelings long to decay. They get by a minute into force. Oh, I didn't notice it's all getting full. But only when got been back, chest, riding got the gear. I didn't think it ever come to a stop.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis and Coffee with me, Tamarijuana. It's a beautiful day in the East Kootenays, and the sun is shining, and it's going to be warm, and I'm relishing, I'm just enjoying every minute of this heat. I know some of you don't really appreciate it, but I love it. So I'm hoping everybody's enjoying the nice warm weather we're getting. Now, it's Canada Day, or Cannabis Day is coming up here, July 1st. I'd like to bring it down a level because we lost a U.S. activist last week that was extraordinary. Mickey Martin passed away suddenly last week. No details as to why or what happened, but we do know that he's left a huge gap in the U.S. cannabis community. Now, on Saturday, July 1st at 7 p.m., there will be a sundown memorial at the Middleton Harbor Park in Oakland, California. So for our listeners out there, if you knew Mickey or if he touched your life in any way, there is a GoFundMe page circulating on Facebook. He left behind two boys that are 9 and 11, I believe they are, and his wife. So if any of you have a spare $5 to send, there's a GoFundMe on Facebook going around. Diane Formbacher, if you follow her, she has it on her page, or Deanne Jean, or anybody of the U.S. activists. So please, if you have some spare money to donate to the family, that would be appreciated. And if you're in the Oakland, California area on Saturday at 7 p.m., there will be a sundown memorial for Mickey Martin. He was a huge inspiration to me. It's a huge loss for the community. Anyways, on a happier note, we have Melissa Finlay with us this morning, and mira-mains. Sorry, Mira. They are out of Edmonton, Alberta. They've been diligently working on a 7/10 event for the last, I think, almost 2 years, because I believe it was supposed to go off last summer, and things got kind of wiggle-waggled, and they didn't get it off, but this year they're going ahead with it. So welcome, Melissa and Mira. I'd like to introduce you to everybody. They're out of Edmonton, and let's hear what you guys got going on in Edmonton.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thanks for being on. So,
Yeah,
when and where do we get going with this?
So the event will be happening on July 21st through to the 23rd, and it's a camping music festival with a farmers market. So you can get tickets online at www.area710.ca, and you would fill out an application form just with references for your social media, and then one of our team members would check that, and once you've been approved, you'd be sent a request, or you'd be emailed a link to the ticket sales to purchase the tickets.
Awesome. Now, whereabouts, I guess the location is kind of disclosed for now, but how long have you guys been? Well, Melissa, you've been involved in the cannabis community in Edmonton for quite a long time. You're the wife of Aaron Bott, who used to run Macros in Edmonton, right? So you've been through a lot in the last few years with the Macros bust and raising your children. So I know that's been a huge kind of I don't know how to put it, hardship for you guys, like with Janice and Bob and your whole family. Like, that must have been terribly frustrating to go through.
Yeah, it was a very difficult experience, and I mean, it hit us in a lot of different dynamics and affected our family in a lot of different ways. And, it definitely was a learning experience. And, we learn from different experiences in life and move forward. And yeah, it was not a great thing, but I'm hoping with legalization that maybe we can allow for dispensaries and have more of a open market and not have people going to jail and worried about it affecting their income and their families in such a way like it did with us.
I know. And that's, I think, one of the main things that we push forward for is that access for all patients doesn't necessarily mean licensed production. And we're having these events like what you're having, as well as the other cups and other events that we've had over the past few years, really open the doors for patients to get the access that they need.
Definitely. And I noticed after the raid with macros here in Edmonton that a lot of patients and people, even cannabis users that are recreational, they're not licensed, they want to have these types of events where they can come and be with other cannabis users and not be judged or worried about whether the police are going to arrest them or what people are going to think of them, and how it's going to affect their jobs. And it's a real stigma that's affecting people, and it's alive and well here in Alberta. So we're really trying to push to normalize cannabis and cannabis events and have a safe place for people to come and use cannabis and have fun with each other.
Right. And in Edmonton too, like there's no other dispensaries that have popped up since the bust, has there? Or is there some that are running after macros?
There has been some online ones, but none that are physically brick and mortar like macros was.
Right. And that's really disheartening. Like, I'm from Alberta too, like you guys know that. And I see things slowly moving forward, but I see that Edmonton also has decided to come through with some bylaws pre-legalization. What do you guys think of that stuff?
Yeah. That's actually coming up today. The public hearing is going on, so we expect to see a lot of speakers in favor and possibly against as well towards the zoning regulations for lounges and the retail businesses.
And there's no lounges in Edmonton either, is there?
No.
All right. And Edmonton's a large city. Like, I think that's what, go to Vancouver, there's one on every corner. You can go to the Cannabis Culture Lounge and, not have a problem. You go out to Toronto, there's a dispensary out there on every corner. Of course, they've got lounges, in Toronto, like Vapor Central and the Hot Box Cafe.
Yeah.
And then you go to Calgary or Edmonton, and it's a vast wasteland.
It's so true.
And there's lots of great opportunity. Here. There's a lot of great buildings that are vacant that are just perfect for the opportunity for lounges and retail businesses. So it's really a great opportunity right now in Edmonton and Calgary, for that matter, all over Alberta.
I don't know if you guys seen the article that came out yesterday from a pot insider, basically saying that dispensary owners are dreaming if they think they're going to be allowed into the legalized market. I think that's where we're at. I think that our government is putting us in a position where we're not going to have any options. How do you girls feel about that?
I kind of feel like, protesting, it has its place and its time, but we're in a time right now where we really need to push and lobby the government and start showing up to these public hearings and start writing to our government officials and really start putting the pressure on them as to how we want to see legalization and how it's going to benefit everyone and how we can also regulate it in a way to appease and make the cannabis user happy as well as the non-cannabis users.
I think that's where we're at too. Moving forward, moving back, the message of saving the children kind of bit us in the ass when it came down to it, because, we wanted to get the, message out to the soccer mom that the harmless and, getting it off the streets and away from the children. And I want to cut my tongue out some days for even having said that, because in hindsight, we have so many children that need to use CBD cannabis for medical reasons as well. So that being said, the whole saving the children, I don't think is really where we're at anymore. I think it's saving themselves.
Right. And I really
corporate lobby,
Yeah, and it really is coming down to we need to start educating the general public who doesn't know about cannabis and educating them about how it's not as harmful as they're making it sound, right? And we really just need to, it's about being responsible and being like, I educate my children. They know I use cannabis. They know it's my medicine, right? And I had a conversation with the school board after the raid because my eldest son was having some behavioral issues. My kids were present when my husband was arrested, so it was traumatizing for my eldest. He was really scared, and he was worried that I was going to go to jail next. So that came out in a lot of anger and stuff at school, and we had to bring in some aids for him. And in order to do that, I needed to sit down with the school board, and I needed to sit down with our principal and vice principal and his teachers, and we sat down and talked about exactly what happened. And I told them everything about the raid and what our family did, and I was very honest with them. And I was fortunate that in the way I presented it and by educating them about what we were about, because I really felt we weren't criminals and we weren't doing anything wrong. So they were very receptive, and they brought in the aides, and social services was never even brought up. And, you know, we've always been very open dialogue and discussion, and they have questions. I'm always open to answer them. And I felt that that's been really beneficial.
I think that's been beneficial for everybody concerned, including your own family, but just educating your neighbor, like educating the teacher, educating these people, Melissa, that's terrific. Good for you. Because that's a hard one, especially when it comes to your kids, right? It's the same, you know, with when anybody gets busted, whether it's for medicinal or whether it's recreational. I think that, you know, the only harm we have in cannabis is the laws that are against it. And that's my personal feelings. I'm sure that many of you also feel the same way, that the harm that we have is cops coming to our doors and traumatizing our children. Like, I don't understand how they can even look at themselves in the face knowing that there's kids where they're going to go in and kick a door and make it so.
We were fortunate in when the cops were arresting Aaron and they were raiding macros, because we were actually like, I needed the vehicle. We share a vehicle. We weren't making a lot of money. Like, I needed the vehicle, so I was dropping them off. I had the kids with me. It was summertime, right? So they needed a search warrant for the vehicle, and they searched our vehicle, so we had to stand aside, and the kids saw everything happen. But the police were very receptive, because, I mean, although it really affected my eldest son, my youngest son seemed to cope with it a little bit better, and he's always been a little bit more outgoing, so he was rushing up to the police officers and checking out their vests, whipping open all their pockets. What's this do? What's that do? And they were completely okay with it, and they were very nice to us, and it was really great. But unfortunately, with Bob at the house, it didn't go quite as well, and Bob ended up needing to go to the hospital, and the police were not as friendly as they were with us, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too from Bob as well. I've had Bob on the show prior as well, and I mean they're seniors. Like, him and Jan are not young people, and they've been doing this for many years for the right reasons. And you're right, it's not like you guys are driving in Rolls Royces or anything and zipping off to vacations every few months because you've made so much money off the patients. That's not how Macros worked. Macros is one of the second one. I've got 2 dispensary cards. One was the one in Montreal that Adam Greenblatt first opened way back. And my second one was Macros, because, well, being in Alberta, first of all, but looking as a patient, looking for the ones that do it for the right reasons. I'm kind of snotty that way, I guess. But in reality, you want to look for the dispensary owners, or look for the people that are doing it for the patients. Not profit over patients, but patients over profit. That's one thing with Macros. They always were very patient-oriented. And that because it was patient-run, patient-based. Bob and Jan are both patients. You're a patient. Aaron's a patient. Everybody was using for medicinal reasons. So I think that says a lot about the different dispensaries that run.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that you guys had to go through that. Like I said, it's been almost 2 years now, but still, that still hangs. And that probably then what catalyzed you even further into the cannabis movement, because you were kind of in the background back there, Melissa. I remember, you were kind of in the background. Was. He didn't want to really say too much, and then all of a sudden, boom, here you are. So that really catalyzed you right into it, right?
Yeah, it really did. See, and it was because of what happened with my children and because of what happened with the whole family. And I mean, it did affect our income. We went from having at least being able to pay our rent every month and meet our monthly bills to not having anything. And I was a stay-at-home mom. I took care of the house and the kids and the bills, and I was on the pack. And I mean, then all of a sudden this happens and everything's turned upside down. And that's why it really affected my kids too. And it catapulted me into the community and made me very passionate about educating people. Because I mean, at that point, I was really kind of shy and not wanting to put myself out there. And I still struggle with that sometimes, trying to get over the shyness. But yeah, it just was very inspiring, I guess, to educate and get the word out there that it's not as dangerous, right? I mean, I have cannabis in my home. My children are in my home. They are okay. They are very intelligent children, right? And they're well behaved for the most part, except for a few issues that we've had. But that's understandable with everything that he's been through. So, I mean, he went from having me in his life daily, all day long, whenever he needed, to mom's not here and she's busy and she's out doing something else. And it's been a difficult transition for the family, for sure.
Absolutely. And that being said too, like the whole changing of things, like, you know, like not having that income. And like you said, it was just enough to kind of cover the bills, and it's a business. And I think that's what I think bothers me the most, is that the government's not looking at these places as business. Like it's no different than having a bookstore. You know, just different product, like, or a tea shop or something else. And you have employees and you're paying taxes and you're doing your due diligence. And then they still turn around and just treat you like you're a criminal, which really shouldn't be happening. People are going to take, yeah. And it shouldn't be happening. Like, it shouldn't be to the point where people are losing their livelihood over something that should be legal anyways. Yeah,
it's a plant, really. I mean, you can grow it in a tower garden, right?
Right, exactly. And like
have fresh vegetables, fresh cannabis. That's really good for you too, right? And educating people about the different derivatives and uses, and right, you don't have to get high.
Right, and the food aspect of it, right? The fact that, you know, hemp seed itself is a high protein, right? And I think that's where a lot of people are seeing the difference. Like, I hate to say this, but the medicinal community really has brought cannabis around to the normalization. It hasn't been the per se, I hate to say this, but the pot smoker that sit in the park, you know, that's done nothing but sit there and smoke weed. It's been the medicinal community that really has pushed for the recreational market too. And I think that's something that is disheartening for a lot of medical patients that were first Section 56s back in 1998 when they first, you know, were allowed to do that, and to see where it's kind of like come full circle now with this new legislation coming in. Now, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back after that and we'll talk about the new legislation and how that's going to affect everybody. So we're going to have a song, which is Hornsby Bronx Free Child. And I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks magazine. You can reach them at 12highchicks.ca. Yanni Care, which is at canamed.ca. Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners. The Haley Rose Foundation. MUM, Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana. The THC Girls Edibles out of Toronto. And the United Coalition out of Edmonton. We'll be right back.
Tune into Lifestyle Radio on 420radio.ca this Saturday, July the 1st, as the 420 Roadshow brings you the grand opening of the new Legacy 420 store in Tenaganaga, Mohawk Territory, Ontario. Legacy 420 isn't your ordinary bong shop. Sure, they have bongs and pipes, but they also supply patients with their medical daily cannabis requirements. They have tested cannabis, concentrates, and the very popular medibles. We'll be talking to Tim Barnhart, the owner of this new 7,500 square foot building, about his vision and what got all this started. We'll be asking about the legalities and why the police don't bother him. We'll be also talking to members of the National Indigenous Medical Cannabis Association, who are an organization of Indigenous people involved in the medical cannabis industry on and off reserve. So join the Owls and the 420 Roadshow crew this Saturday afternoon as we go live from the Legacy 420 grand opening, located in the Tenaganaga, Mohawk Territory, Ontario.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Hi, it's Deb from BMA Hydroponics. Whatever you are growing, from vegetables to medicinal cannabis, we have everything you need to succeed. From seed to harvest to processing and extracting, we carry all the brand name products that will help you produce, process, and consume high-quality medicine. Our knowledgeable staff of qualified growers have decades of experience with home production, and all possess either MMAR injunction status or an ACMPR registration certificate. We offer the largest variety of products available anywhere, and if you don't see what you're looking for, just let us know and we'll find it for you. Visit our store at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, Ontario, or visit our website at bmahydroponics.com. We can be reached at 613-967-9888, Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BMAHydro and drop us a line at BMA. Our motto is your success is our success.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Why not? Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website. Sounds like a cool website. Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it. You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Who decided this life for?
All right. And over the break, we're back, and over the break, we were kind of talking about, pre-employment drug testing and how things are different over, in Alberta with the oil patch and here with the tech mines, and how the new legislation might, affect how jobs are going to be, affected, and how the workplace is going to be affected. And I know you live in you're still up in Edmonton, in Alberta, and how do you see that? Like, do you see lots of people that are hiding behind the closet door because of their jobs, Melissa?
For sure they are. They don't want to admit that they're using, and even though they don't use during the day, I mean, they want to still use in the evening, be able to come home instead of have that beer, they want to have that joint, right? But it's becoming difficult for them, and especially because the unions aren't supporting them as well, and that's becoming difficult. So I know that there is Cannabis at Work, and they're online as well. It's cannabisatwork.com, and you can contact them, and they will try and help you to educate your union and your employer and get your medical pushed through, because they're trying to help educate and regulate for policies with companies, right, for medical use. So,
right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. A lot of companies aren't used to this, so they don't have any policies per se in place, and they don't know how to deal with it. Now, thankfully, most of the oil companies in Alberta aren't union, which is why I know for a fact that the companies that Alvin have worked for are not union, and the guys would never go for that, because it's just the oil patch, and there's just no union out there. But I know Tech out here has union, right? And but Tech union actually is the union that has Tech in court for the pre-employment drug test. They're going to the Supreme Court fighting for the employee on the fact of medical cannabis and the pre-employment drug testing and how it's unconstitutional. So that's something that the Tech union out here I know is doing. So, you got some unions that aren't so cannabis educated, I guess I would put it, because that's what it is. It's cannabis educated, not cannabis friendly, because that's just meaning that they think it's okay. Being friendly about it and being educated about it are two different things. So, the environment is going to change with this new legislation. Now, Mira and Lisa or Melissa, how do you feel with this new legislation? Do you think that it's going to open the doors for more industry, or do you think it's going to slam the doors? How do you guys feel about the new legislation?
I feel like in Alberta, it's the Wild West, and it's always going to be that way. So I feel like there is a lot of opportunity. I mean, our liquor stores are privately owned. It's and they're on every block. So it's a big industry. Cannabis could be really huge here as far as tourism. I mean, for hotels, for lounges, for everything. And I think that that's really important to see in Alberta. And I think that the doors will be open. And I think a lot of people are going to be fighting for that. Even our mayors, the mayor in Calgary and Edmonton, I believe they are quite open-minded to that kind of business, as well as they see the tax revenue in the United States, and they want that here as well.
Alberta's always been, I think, a province of entrepreneurship. So, I mean, they do support businesses, and, unfortunately, right now it's in support of corporations, but we need to get small businesses back on the map there too, right? I mean, Macro's operated for 11 years during that time, so why can't other dispensaries and cannabis businesses do it too?
Right. Did you find the difference with the NDP government? I know that was a big change. I mean, I just moved into BC right during that campaign election time when Rachel Nolte actually, took over the province. Are you finding that that's making it easier to talk to? Because I know that the Alberta government just came out with, what word am I looking for?
The big survey that
the big survey. Yeah, they just had a public survey put out so that everybody could put in their opinion on what they figured the government should do. So do you find that the NDP government in Alberta is a little easier to deal with than the Conservative?
Absolutely. The Conservative government, I mean, they're not for it at all, as far as I see in the news. And the NDP, they've went so far as to send, our Solicitor General to Colorado to get a better idea as to what legalization looks like. So I feel like they're taking the right steps, and they're ahead of the game, really.
That's what I think too. Actually, I see them actually progressing even farther than where we are in BC. Yeah. Because BC right now, we're a great big clusterfuck, to be quite frank. Like, we don't even know who our premier is. Like, Christy Clark was put in, but now we've got I don't know, they're going to throw her out, topple the government today with a confidence vote, or tomorrow. So we can't even move forward. We have nothing. We're at a vast right now, in BC, where, forefronting. BC was always the kind of the forefront ahead with the dispensaries and the BC Bud and all of, coming out of British Columbia, where now I see Alberta forging forward a lot quicker. And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. And I mean, after the raid, there was the federal election there. And so I really made a push to volunteer for the federal NDP candidate. And I was trying to help her win. And she seemed to be a good candidate to run against our conservative in the riding. But unfortunately, he had won. And so we have a conservative that's in our riding for the federal MP. But yeah, they were a lot more open to it. I mean, we had a public debate forum for our riding, and the conservative candidate didn't even show up. He decided that door knocking was a little bit better than showing up to his community debate. So that was a bit frustrating.
Well, in Alberta, like, I've said in the past, we took a bale of hay out and, to every debate in Lethbridge one year, and, Jim Hillier still won, and he didn't show up till one of them. And that's the problem with being in Alberta so much, is that conservatism seems to has ruled everything for so many years that there was no change. And now that there has been change, I'd like to see that happen federally as well within, because God help you if you get Jason Kenney. That's all I have to say for you. Like, God help you if the Conservatives win again, because I have no words for that man. Like, seriously. And I can't believe that got rid of Rona Ambrose anyways. You guys don't have her sitting as an MP anymore. She's gone. And there was a time that Jan told me you guys were at because you guys also had the hemp.
Hemperfy,
right? Right. Yeah. And you were at a farmer's market one time. And I don't know if you were with her, but she had met Rona Ambrose's parents and grandparents. And
she was at a smaller market, so she was by herself out there. But she came back and told us, and she was so excited, and she thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, go ahead and tell that story. I won't. You go ahead and tell it, because it's a good one.
Yeah, so she had gone out to this farmer's market, and this elderly gentleman had walked up to the table, and he was talking about how his mother or grandmother used to grow hemp and cannabis, and he was very pro cannabis, right? And he was talking about how his daughter was Rona Ambrose, and she's towing the party line, basically, right? So
right,
yeah,
and that's
in her history, right? So I mean,
right,
it is there. It's just a plant, and I mean, it is a viable business, and it's a brand new industry that can flourish in so many aspects. I mean, I'm also sit on the board for Connections here in Edmonton, and so I really encourage people to come out to Connections meetings. We usually hold them the first Thursday of every month. We're kind of taking a little bit of a break over the summer, and we're just doing a small dinner party on the 13th. But they're all over the place, and there's some in Vancouver. You can contact Danielle Jackson there. She's the founder of Connections, and she's also on her Green Pride tour right now. So you definitely want to check out those things, because that's a great opportunity to get out there and meet people in auxiliary industries that can support our industry, right? Like, there's lab testing people, there's people that can create software and computer POS systems for you, you know what I mean? And labels and filter materials and all sorts of different businesses that intertwine and can work as an entire industry together. And we're coming together and talking and seeing how we can support one another. And I think that's a really great thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's where we're at, where we need to start supporting. Like, I know there's, so much competition too, that I don't think some of them see past that competition level, where it's not just competition. We have to stick together in business too, because we're not just fighting for our businesses. We're fighting for the patients and their access, and the fact that if we're not there to help them, they don't have that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's the thing, even with clinics. Like, I know a lot of the other patients, you hear the ones that are bickering back, well, it shouldn't have to be any fees. Hey, I'm all for that. There shouldn't be a fee. You should be able to walk into your doctor's office and say, this is my choice. I choose to use cannabis over pharmaceutical. Will you please sign these papers? And the doctor should be educated enough to say, yes, no problem. Here you go. No fee, whatever the, $25 referral fee or whatever that some of the doctors charge in Alberta, because there's extra billing and stuff. And it's not happening. It's not even happening here. And like I said, I'm in BC. I've got 3 clinics that aren't taking new patients, period, and try and find a doctor that's going to sign those papers for you. Not happening. Yeah. So, and the cannabis clinics that are running, some of them are outlandish. Some of them want huge amounts of money for licensing. Some of them are as reasonable as they can be. I know the bottom end for our clinic is $300 plus tax, and that's us making you $0. So, there are people out there that are actually doing it for the right reasons. The ones that are charging, $500 and $600. Let me put it this way: if they're charging you $500, they are making money off you, because the doctors that we work with do not charge that amount of money. And I know that for a fact. And we use a consulting company that hooks us up with doctors, right? So if you're from 1 to 10 grams, if you're paying more than $300, you are that person or whoever you're going to is making money off of you. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, well, we all need to educate our doctors too, right? And unfortunately, that's going to be the hardest part, and that's what we're finding here in Alberta too, is educating the doctors and getting them on board. And then when we do get them educated and on board, they're having issues with the College of Physicians, right? Because they're signing too many licenses. So
they're signing over 20, or they're signing over 10 grams, or over the 5 gram. I've been hearing that if your doctor signs over the 5 gram recommended limit by Health Canada, they're getting phone calls. Now, I'm still waiting for my papers, since February.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most ridiculous thing, too.
It is. It's a very frustrating process, and it needs to be definitely looked at and revised. And I think we've proved time and time again how unconstitutional the medical systems that they have in place for medical cannabis users are, right? Like, the MMAR was unconstitutional, the MMPR was unconstitutional, and now really the ACMPR is unconstitutional too. So we really need to look at what we're doing and how we're going to regulate, and how are we going to keep the medical and not lose it in a recreational legalization, and how that's going to be regulated, right?
Right. And on that note, we're going to take another quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about how we're going to keep that program, because they do plan on, I don't know, they said we have the 5 years. So we'll come back and talk about that in a minute here. So we're going to have Chief Greenbud, the hit that makes you cough, our song. And I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners, MUM, Maritime Regenerative for Medical Marijuana, Yanni Care, which you can reach at canamed.ca, and we'll be right back.
Meal of the day. What's the matter? There's no prize in here. What? Well, that's just lame. I hate that. I remember in the 70s, there was a prize in each and every cereal box.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
You know what? I've solved that problem.
How'd you do that?
With this. The Supercharged Kit. Brand new from Rainbow Nutrients. Each and every Supercharged Kit contains 1 liter Grow, Blue, Micro, Velo Kelp, Magnifical, Astro Flower, and Nature's Candy. You also get a shot glass, a syringe so you can accurately measure your nutrients, a sticker, a feed chart, and a prize in every box.
Oh, yeah!
What'd you get?
I got a Remo Nutrients lighter leash.
Sweet. Hey, Mikey, he likes it.
Hey, I got keys in my Supercharged Kit.
I think those are mine. The Supercharged Kit is available at your favorite hydroponic retailer. Get yours today.
It's a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Excuse me, is that your lung? I may not be a doctor, but it looks like it's come undone. The good news is you're gonna catch a buzz like you never thought, 'cause the hit that makes you cough, that's the hit that gets you off. Somewhere out there, there's a hit that's gonna knock you down. When you smoke it, you'll know it when you're convulsing on the ground. And though you may be in agony, here's a pleasant thought. It's the hit that makes you cough, that gets you off. Damn, dude, you've got to breathe. Your face is as red as a fire truck, and your eyes make you look Chinese. You can try and hold it in, just like you were taught, but it's the hit that makes you cough, that's the hit that gets you off. Somewhere out there, there's a hit that's gonna knock you down. When you smoke it, you'll know it when you're convulsing on the ground. Though you may be in agony, here's a pleasant thought. It's the hit that makes you cough, that gets you off. And though you may be in agony, here's a pleasant thought. It's the hit that makes you cough. Well, it's the hit that makes you cough. Well, it's the hit that makes you cough, that gets you off.
Aaron showed me the video.
Oh, okay, so we're back on, and you were talking about a cannabis cowboy in Alberta that you said is making videos?
Yeah.
Oh.
You have to ask Aaron Bott for the link, because it was sent to him and he showed it to me. I'm like, really? It's a cannabis cowboy rap video. It's pretty interesting, yeah.
That's great. Well, I think that's where it's at. I think a lot of people that weren't really kind of, talking about it now are talking about it. So that's not a bad thing. I know I was going to say, like, I've got a lot of old ex-people and oil people that we know from Alberta, and big farmers that we know from Alberta that we used to work for have contacted us and asked about licensed production sites and asked about how to get involved in it. And everybody knows my stance on that, so I just kind of push them off. But, like, in hindsight, I'd like to see small crafting kind of be able to get into that smaller licensed production. Like, if you have to have a licensed production license, at least let's see the ones that are only, they're small, that are crafted to also be able to get into that market. Like, I don't understand why it takes so much money in such a big facility to have to get you into this market.
Well, unfortunately, it's just going to take a lot of time and effort on all of our parts to really get out there and just educate everyone around us and get out there and educate the governments, right? I sit on a roundtable discussion. It's the Alberta stakeholders meetings that we have, and it's a bunch of Alberta-based cannabis businesses that get together, and we discuss how we feel that Alberta businesses should be regulated in regards to distribution and how that's going to look for our communities, and trying to educate our governments and approach them. And so they'll be at the meeting today, as well as Mira will be down there, and with Terps Compassion Club. So yeah, I definitely encourage everyone in Alberta and Edmonton and area to get down to the meeting and see what's happening. I know you had to register to speak, and I know Mira's registered to speak, so I want to check that out.
That's awesome work. And when I was out there, Kevin Sorensen, okay, ladies, he was the industry minister for the federal Conservative government. He's the Camrose. He sits in the Camrose MP office. It changed his mind about cannabis. So he's somebody else you might want to pound at because of the fact that he sees the industry in it, right? And I don't know what's like, but when it comes down to legislation voting and whether the legislation is going to go through or not, we need some conservatives on our side too, right? So that might be somebody else you guys might want to start lobbying. He's, like I said, he was my MP when I was living out in Alberta as well, but he was pretty cannabis friendly.
Right.
Sorry about the dogs, that's just the way it goes around here.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah, shit happens around here. So hey, it's an explicit radio station. You can swear. I'm allowed to do that. But back to where you guys are going. So you got the round table tonight. You've got your 710 event coming up. You guys are really busy up there. And that's great to see because, activism is alive and well in Alberta. And I think that's something that everybody should really, embrace, because it's not just the bigger. Alberta's really come a long ways in tenure. And it's been 10 years of a lot of hard work.
For sure. And I think we really need to come together and try and put our differences aside and discuss. I mean, like, through Connections, you meet LPs there too. They come out and support, because Connections is about diversity and inclusivity of everyone that's in the industry, right? So I've sat down and had dinner and talked with a lot of these people who work for LPs, and really not all of them are bad. And there's some of them personally are in support of it, right? But I mean, it's about the legislation and how the government's doing things, and some people aren't willing to step into that gray area, as we like to call it, right, and operate their businesses that way. So I mean,
there's a lot of fear with that gray area, what I mean, like, because nobody wants to go to jail for a plant, and we all know that that's still a possibility even with this new legislation. It's not like they've taken the criminality out of it. They've added to it. They've made it a little less, intrusive, like for normality, like up to 30 grams. But in reality, they really haven't taken the criminality out of the legislation. There's still prohibition.
Yeah, for sure. There is prohibition. But I really think, we just need to be diligent and patient, because, even with the liquor legalization, right, it took a while before we got the crafter market of that. So it's going to take a while for the cannabis crafter market as well, unfortunately, and I'm hoping it's not going to take as long, right?
Hope so too, yeah, because it was 50 years for crafting with the alcohol market.
Yeah.
So let's hope that it doesn't take that long because of the harms difference. But you can't compare the two. Yeah. I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, you cannot compare the difference between the two. It's just not. It's not the same.
No, but we need to look at how other industries are already set up, I think, too, and see how they're currently operating, because cannabis can fit into a few different industries and be modeled after a couple. If we're looking at the recreational, then, yeah, we're looking at comparing it to alcohol, because there's a lot of people that say, hey, I'd rather come home and smoke a joint than have a beer, right? If we're looking at it in other aspects too, right, we need to compare it to the food industry. How do we regulate food? How are we looking at it that way? And how is it going to be made for public safety? Because if you're going to be a crafter and you're going to sell to the public, right, you're going to need to follow certain regulations. So thankfully, there are people out there that are willing to operate still. One of our sponsors for Area 710, Ed's Meds, they're a dispensary that's Alberta-based, and they help Albertans, and they also ship Canada-wide. And so they're a definite option for people who are looking for different cannabis strains or different derivatives, because, I mean, the current system that they have out there and options they have for patients, it's not necessarily what they need. Some people want the edibles. They don't know how to make it. Some people want to have the Phoenix tiers, right? They don't want to make it themselves. We need to have all sorts of different cannabis businesses that are there for options of convenience as well as opportunities for entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. So we'll give a shout out to some of your sponsors that are going to be sponsoring the 710 event. And so you go ahead and give them all a shout out.
Yeah, so Top Drawer Canna is going to be there, as well as Bud City and Hemp Hydrate, and Rudy is also sponsoring, as well as Crop King Seeds, as we talked about. And we're looking to add a few more. So, of course, businesses that are interested can email us at area710edmonton@gmail.com if interested in sponsoring. And the festival is July 21st to 23rd. And we're going to be having speakers, live music, comedy, and 420 games, as well as possibly a river float if the weather's permitting. So that'll be really fun.
Yeah. River floats always are fun. So that's quite a good sponsorship. But yeah, if anybody's interested in sponsoring these guys, they're out there in Alberta, give a hand, because that's not an easy feat to do. I know that they've had the lift events and stuff going into Calgary and into Edmonton, but understandably those are licensed producer based sponsorships, so they've got the money to be able to do it. For these girls, so these ladies, to go and do an event like this, it takes money out of your own pocket, and it takes a lot of sponsorship, and it costs a fair bit of money. So let's get them some sponsorship and get your tickets and head out to Alberta, because by the sounds of where you guys are having it, it's pretty beautiful out there.
Yeah, it's a really great location. I mean, the river is a little bit a ways from where we will be camping, but we will be organizing a charter bus to take people on a river float. And so it's definitely something to come check out. We're trying to focus more on the crafter industry and support the gray area markets. So we are not necessarily accepting LP businesses, right? We're not getting Aurora to sponsor, which is an Alberta-based business. But
right.
Right. We really want to focus on the crafters, and that's why we want to have the farmers market there for people to, come and sell their wares.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that I think that we should be able to do quite freely, to have the farmers market and have everybody come out and bring their, because if you're a patient, some of those patients out there are growing some pretty nice medicine, and we should be able to share that amongst ourselves. And I don't understand the whole non-sharing. I mean, with the new legislation, apparently that's not going to be in effect. But I mean, as far as patients go, we still have that little piece of paper that tells you you cannot share your medicine. And again, back to the whole program, 5 years, they said, and with the new legislation, where is that going to leave patients? And I'm hoping it leaves us a little easier off, but I don't want to be limited to the 4 plants, because for some of us, that's not enough. And for some, it's, more than enough. But again, microdosing, and there's all kinds of different methods that are coming out with medical, use, that it's hard to say where we're going to head with that.
Yeah, so I really encourage people to get out to different events and come out to connections meetings and see the different businesses that are out there. And if you're a medical patient, learning about the different types of cannabis that you can use, the different strains, the different derivatives, the fact that you can eat it raw, and that can also be beneficial to your health conditions, the CBD aspects, and knowing that, you know, it's not necessarily harmful to our children. I mean, children can use CBD and it is perfectly fine for them. Hemp Hydrate, they have the CBD water, and my son drank the CBD water and he loved it. It tasted just like normal water to him, right?
Right. And I don't see that being a problem either. It's going to be proactive towards their health. I see the difference in, you know, autistic children that take oil rather than take Ritalin. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just a huge difference. There's no crash. It's just unbelievable, quite frankly, at the difference between the pharma meds for children and non-pharma meds. So
Well,
again,
exactly.
that's one thing that, you know.
I think we need to start turning to cannabis first rather than last. And then, you know, sometimes we do need to use cannabis in conjunction with pharma once our conditions are severe and they've progressed to a point in a stage that we can't manage it with cannabis alone. But, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you girl. Go ahead. Mira, what were you going to say?
We still just want to, start with cannabis first because it's going to be a safer option.
Always. I think that's one thing that we have to, like I said, you said too, educating our doctors, educating our MPs, educating your MLAs too, because basically this is going to get kicked back to the provinces. Educate your mayor. Talk to your city councilman. Talk to anybody and everybody that's willing to listen to you. So again, you guys want to shout out to your 710 event and your sponsors, and we're going to wrap the show up.
So our sponsors are MedMan brand and Ed's Meds, and we've also got Social Media and Top Drawer Canna and
Rudy, Bud City, and Crop King Seeds.
Right. And it's happening July 21st to the 23rd. And our vendors and sponsors can definitely come out on July 20th and set up, and we'll have like an industry mixer night the night before we get ready for the event, right?
Sounds like a great time, you guys. Well, thanks so much for coming on, ladies. I really appreciate you joining me on the show. And here's to a successful event and towards legalization in Alberta.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Gotcha. You guys take care. Wow. Next week, I'm going to try and pin down Adele Falk again. I'm trying to pin Adele down. And we'll be talking to you next Wednesday. Y'all have a great week now. See you later.
Bye.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not? Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website. Sounds like a cool website. Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it. You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those